table. So, Councillor Morrall, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to contribute, and then I've got a few questions on this, but Councillor Francis mentioned the B word, and you'll probably remember in November 2018 when I got £20 out and made a bet. But the reason I got £20 out was because Adam Smith was on the back of it, and I remember joking at the time saying, rather than teaching kids how to Shakespeare, we should get them to read The Wealth of Nations. And so I'm delighted to see the third point here about development of 14 to 19-year-old career pathways in enterprise and entrepreneurship in schools. This is something you know I'm extremely passionate about. It's a shame Councillor Clancy is not here, because we had a nice little debate about this when he talked about programmes of the 1980s that used to work. And you also write about the stigma around apprenticeships. They are seen as second class. And I was actually listening to Talk Radio this week, and I was surprised to see Tony Blair's son was on there. And Tony Blair, if you remember, was the archetype of education, education, education. They wanted to send 50% of people through to university, and this obviously it's failed in a way, because it's precisely because of that rhetoric that people think apprenticeships are not very good. And now you've got the son of Tony Blair saying that actually apprenticeships are really, really good, and we need to start doubling down on this sort of stuff. And I'll tell you a little tale about that. According to the Higher Education Statistics Authority, 40% of university graduates will go on to work in the public sector, and a third of them go on to work in non-professional roles. I was in an event last year, and I was speaking to an executive of a very prestigious university in London, who laughed at me when I said that and said, there's absolutely no evidence, and that's not true. And I drove home as a working class lad, doubting myself, thinking, what am I in politics for? I thought that's what the fight was. And then when I got home, I actually went to the Office for National Statistics and to the HSE. You haven't got to look very far. It's an executive summary on page 2. It literally tells you that 40% of graduates go on to work in the public sector.
Could we move on to some questions, please?
And we can highlight that here as well, because on the apprenticeship levy, it says here that only 2.5% of your public sector workers have come from apprenticeships. So again, this is something that we need to work on. Now, on terms of questions, apprenticeships themselves, when it comes to the private sector and business, in the past there has been an element where businesses will use apprenticeships as a mechanism to pay their staff lower than the minimum wage. And there's also been evidence where apprenticeships have been used by places like pizza places, for example. Now, you can't tell and I just want to make sure that there's safeguards in place that we're not going out and selling these sorts of apprenticeships like you're going to a pizza place and getting a degree in how to make pizza, because that would be selling young people short. And finally, marketing. Again, something else I always bang on about is marketing and media strategy. Peculiar interest, I work in marketing, just to get that out there, but it's no good having these initiatives if we're not telling people about them, especially those from deprived communities, that these opportunities in Birmingham are right here on your doorstep. It's no good just doing it through schools and libraries. We need to be much more broad-reaching for the people that are, the young lad who's sitting at home playing Fortnite, locked away in his bedroom. We need to do much more to communicate this to people across the sea. Thank you.
I'm not sure what the questions were, but if there's anything you'd like to answer.
Let me just, I don't disagree with anything that you've said at all. We've been before with this discussion. Marketing and, the unpicking of what apprenticeships are to, all sectors, hugely important. I also think we have to be mindful of the sort of language we use around apprenticeships as well, because some of the language that we use as a council is often very clumsy, and I read statements and things, and it doesn't mean anything to me, let alone, Joe or Jean soap in the street. So I think we need to work all of those things.